In exercise 303, we're going to look at changing the subject of the formula. Now, to understand what this exercise might be going to be about, you have to understand the words in the title. Hopefully, you've remembered that subject is just the letter at the front on its own. So when we write the formula, A is equal to length times breadth. In that current format, A is the subject. What we're going to do in this exercise is change the subject. So if we wrote this formula by getting L by itself, for example, divide by B, and now we've got L is equal to A all over B, I've clearly changed the subject to L. In this example, V is the subject. Since V squared is U squared plus 2AX. It actually, so it has V as the subject. And of course we could write the formula with U as the subject. So when we think about that, we know that we need to get the U by itself. So we will need to shuffle things from one side to the other of the equation. So you start to think, hopefully, that we don't want this 2AS to be here with U squared. So we're going to pick that up. We're going to take it over the equal sign, which means it's going to change sign. V squared stays, but this is going to go from a plus to a minus over here, minus 2AS, then the equal sign and the U squared. Strictly speaking, if we want to go all the way down to U, then we have to take the square root. So I want the square root of all of this, V squared minus 2AS. We don't usually put the subject on the right-hand side. It's fine to work with it on the right-hand side until we get it by itself, but then we would write it on the left-hand side and say that's exactly the same as U equals the square root of V squared minus 2AS. So the process of changing the subject, which is what this whole exercise is going to be about, simply involves applying the same rules as when you were solving an equation. This is like I have solved for you. Let's have a look at some examples. Make n the subject of 40n plus 75. So currently the subject is C. I've got 40n plus 75 together over here. I need to get this n by itself. I'm going to pick the 75 up and bring it over. Not because I can simplify it, I can't simplify it, but I need to be working on getting the n by itself. Once I'm at this stage, you probably know to get that n by itself, you simply divide by 40. Cross these out, we've got our n by itself. Now we've worked with n on the right-hand side, but we wouldn't leave it there. It's more correct to present it with n on the left-hand side. And we've got our C minus 75 over 40. And some of you might remember I've suggested that if there's more than one thing in a numerator or a denominator, we put it in brackets. Example 2, make A the subject. So here's A. And again, we're going to pick up the plus B squared and bring it over. And again, not because we can simplify this, but because we're wanting to get A by itself. Make A the subject, interpret that as get A by itself. And again, to go from A squared down to A, we want the square root of all of that. So make sure your square root sign's nice and long so it all fits under it. And then while we've worked with A on the right-hand side, we wouldn't leave it there. We would finish off our answer by bringing it to the left-hand side and writing our nice long square root and putting all of this underneath it. And now I've clearly made A the subject. Make R the subject. Now the complication here is R is inside a bracket, and that bracket, we can't touch anything inside that bracket until we've removed the bracket, and the bracket is to a power. You've seen, as you did here, when we had A squared and we went down to A, we took the square root. Well, if we had x to the n was equal to, say, y, I would need to take not the square root but the nth root of x to the n and the nth root of y. And that will get me x, but over here I will have the nth root of y. That's a little bit complicated. Just ask me for some help when you're doing that type, and you'll see what I do here. So I'm going to remove the p first. So to remove the p, we would just divide by p, divide by p. So now I've got A on p equals 1 plus r to the n. To get down to just having, if we've got x to the n and we want to go just to x, we take the nth root. So I'm wanting to go from this bracket to the nth power, just to the bracket. I want the nth root. Now you can see I've made it really deep this time, not necessarily long, but deep, because I've got to fit all this fraction underneath. Almost there. I want to keep that r by itself, so I pick up the 1, take it to the other side and subtract 1. And of course at the front is this nice big deep nth root of A on P. Make it really clear that your symbol encompasses all of the root. Oh, sorry, all of the fraction is equal to r, and then we would just reverse it. R is equal to the nth root, and that n has to sit in this little hook, A over P minus 1. You should be right to do exercise 303.